Ramadan! Every step we take brings us closer to victory! Closer to revenge! Hurrah!
Stand alone on the Western Front, fighting through our blood and cuts. Clankers heads, we all hunt. On divers, ignore our deaths. They will pay for their offense. No longer come to their defense.
Evening's freedoms, democratic detonators of degenerate doers of evil. That was Alone We Fight and Hold by Stormtrooper 115. And let me tell you, he does not like it when bug divers stick to doing their own thing in the TQZ when there's a bot-related major order going on. But I understand the big picture. We need bug divers to keep bringing in fuel shipments during Western Front activities. I just wish this fact was better rendered on the Fleet Logistics UI. The Liberation Fleet burns through E710 at a pretty fair rate, and Decay is one heck of a gas guzzler, even with all those improvements the eggheads made to our QBR drives. I'd also like to stress that under the Autonomy of Patriotically Administered Violence bill introduced to the Democratic Council by General Brash, the deployment location of all Helldivers is their own prerogative. As long as you're putting bad guys in the dirt, no judgment here. Carry on, my wayward sons. Still a mighty fine song, though. Today, the defensive campaign was won at Marfark, with the Automatons unable to hold the ground they won earlier in the week, and this allowed for an opening for supercruisers under the Super F Naval Armada to execute a FTL flank in low orbit and inflict mass casualties in the collective fleet. Without any further means to resupply, Helldivers and Siege Marines clean up the ground campaign easily and slapped a 100% socialism free label on the planet. Nicely done, guys. The focus is now on Matar Bay with the aid of Decay and her Eagle Storm power, which is always a treat to watch. Automaton forces are unable to properly coordinate in near space for fear of getting blocked by attentive DSS cannons, which have a maximum range of 4 astronomical units. A supercarrier shows up to aid with the defense, and is gonna get smashed like an aluminum can for the recycling bin the moment it dares show its face. Matar Bay's Liberation ETA sits at a little over 16 hours, and the votes coming in look like Decay is going to remain on target over the planet until it is completely liberated. Good call, best to be thorough. This means that the Liberation Fleet will be proceeding off to Choohe to finish out efforts on the major order late tomorrow morning, with Decay following their course at her usual time later on that night. Now, news from within the TQZ. There are still sporadic reports of fighting and skirmishing clashes with Terminid swarms on Pandion, but little else of note. Bull Rock has dropped back into the no-change category, but right now the Terminid Hive Mind has dropped back into its hibernation phase. We should expect no serious movement from the bugs for at least another few days, so we've got time to wrap this current MO up. It's been a while since I spoke on my unpreferred tactics for brutalizing the enemies of democracy and justice, so let's usher in a fresh new segment of the Geneva suggestion with a build that I'm particularly proud of. The Turbo Cat Relay Operative. The Turbo Cat being my ship's Eagle Bomber. My pilot, Tanya, wanted to name it the Hawk 2A, but I used the commanding officer's veto power on that. We are not calling it that, ever. This build is tailored specifically to fight large numbers of heavily armored targets, specifically bot targets. To that end, I have found the BR-14 Adjudicator one of the best primaries for dealing with them. It kills skinnies with precision semi-auto fire and good trigger discipline, busts down devastators, and can even kill gunships if your aim and leading is good. I named mine Judy. The Loyalist is a very well thought of sidearm, feeling like a purifier that fits in your pocket. The ammo capacity leaves a little to be desired, but charged shots from this hit like a democratic train. It can easily pop off devastators in just 2 or 3 shots. Now we get into the main anti-armor focus of the Turbo Cat Relay Operative, the G-123 Thermite Grenade. This couples in well with our armor perk choice of engineering kit, bumping your total number of thermite target against distant foes. I just can't say enough good things about the thermite grenade. It is an incredibly effective tool for taking down heavy armor when the rest of your build just can't manage it. Hulk in your face? Thermite it. Tank? Thermite. Factory Strider? Cover his face with sparklers like it's the 4th of July. You'll also get more thermite grenades from each reinforce, so give freely. And now we get into stratagems. I know I said I personally didn't like the spear because of its ammo count, but having thermite grenades in tandem with this weapon will give you enough AT support to deal with anything that comes rumbling down the road. The thermite grenades will also deal with anything that gets inside the spear's minimum range, while the spear itself can snipe extremely distant targets that the thermites can't reach. These two just rock out like chocolate and peanut butter. Bonnie and Clyde, democracy and voting, you get the idea. This next part is where you're a partner in crime, the Eagle, comes into play. Strafing Run has been buffed repeatedly and is simply excellent against bots. It packs large amounts of armor-piercing rounds, making a mockery of any kind of ground-based armor, and it can even kill Hulks if you hit your angles right. It is so precise that if you throw it at your feet, it'll blast down everything in front of you while leaving you completely unharmed. The Eagle Airstrike is an old classic and allows another angle of enemy deletion. Whereas Strafing Run will take care of enemies in a straight line directly ahead of you, the Airstrike will sweep in from the sides, and these two will really give you a lot of options for handling enemies regardless of their formation. Here's a word of advice. When chasing you, bots will often stretch out in a pursuing conga line, leaving them easy prey for a Strafing Run. When in a firefight, they'll stretch out into a wider horizontal line so that everyone gets a chance to fire, and they'll just be busted down easily by an airstrike. It is not particularly difficult to make bots do what you want this way. They're really kind of dumb like that. The last stratagem on our loadout can either be 110mm rocket pods for a pinpoint accurate armor deletion, further accentuating your role as a heavy unit buster, or a 500 kg strike for its general versatility. Really, it's dealer's choice. I just prefer the rocket pods because it lets me snipe enemies from angles the spear or thermites just would not be able to reach easily. No matter what happens, I've always got a card to play. Now, for all of this build's power, it does require a decent amount of foresight. You should always be looking for chances during calm times to send your Eagle off to rearm, as that is where a decent chunk of your offensive firepower will be coming from. There is zero shame in throwing Eagle Strike beacons one after another at an enemy formation until they give up. If you're fighting fair, you are doing something wrong. When it comes to boosters, I'd rank Vitality Enhancement at number 1 because this grants your team a 20% damage reduction from all sources. It'll help you survive a lot of stuff that you ordinarily wouldn't. Following that, Hellpod Space Optimization, because that'll give you more thermites per reinforce, not to mention more bullets to put aliens of one flavor or another into the dirt. That's been Liberty's Latest with me, ponderatheradioangel. So, dear listeners, what do you call your ship's Eagle Bomber? I imagine that there's some pretty creative names out there. In fact, if you've gotten to know the more quirky members of your Super Destroyer's crew a little bit more personally, tell me their stories down in the comments section. My ship, the Bringer of Mercy, is one of the few in the Liberation fleet that is crewed entirely by Faunus. Really, I have a janitor that has a Volpine affinity, the guy who puts my sentries together is a rat, and the crew chief for my TurboCats maintenance team is a raccoon named Sly. We all work together to build a brighter future. For liberty, for freedom, for democracy, and for Super Earth.